Have you ever felt that the key to improving your life could be better? Have you ever wondered why your life, your business, your thoughts, and your actions are not the way you desire them to be? Well, we can help you with that today. Hi, my name is Ann McNeil, and I am the Master Wealth Builder, helping to build stronger and better lives and businesses. And I am excited with our co-host every single Saturday to share with you one of the principles of success from the book Think and Grow Rich, espoused by Napoleon Hill. And the answers to many of our questions are shared today through the principle of autosuggestion. Today, we have a very special guest, yes, a special guest in the name of Jason Murray is going to be sharing his experiences with this principle of autosuggestion. But if you ever stop to think about your imagination and your will and your conscious mind and your unconscious mind, this principle shares with us that you actually have two minds. Yes, not one, but at least two. One is your conscious and the other is your subconscious. Napoleon Hill calls this the third step toward riches. That third step is autosuggestion. And this term, it really applies to all suggestions, whether they are self-administered stimuli or stimuli that's from others. You know, those words that people tell you, you'll never be nothing. Who do you think you are? You know those words. Then there are some words where people say, hey, you know, you are the greatest. And in yourself, you don't believe that. But when you hear it long enough, you begin to believe it and you begin to say, I am the greatest. And of course, we know who coined that phrase, none other than Ali. But of course, I could do this podcast by myself. Yes, I have, and yes, I could. But not today, not today. Let me welcome our co-host, none other than welcome back, Galen Bingham. How are you this morning?
Oh my gosh, it is so great to be back. I am so excited to be here with you on this Saturday, and then our guest as well. This topic is really, really important, auto suggestion, and it's also convicting. Every time I get ready for this and I read this particular principle, it's kind of convicting because it says that no thought, whether it is negative or positive, can enter the subconscious mind without the aid and principle of auto suggestion. And that's just a core principle. But the part that convicts me every time, it says that nature has so built man that he has absolute control over the material that reaches his subconscious mind through the five senses. Although there is not meant to construe that man always exercises this control, in the great majority of instances, he does not exercise it, which explains why so many people go through life in poverty and not realizing their potential. And that for me, that means everything that I have because of my thoughts, and everything that I don't have, I don't have because of my thoughts. Oh, so I can't wait to get into this conversation because Jason Murray is the ideal person to help us navigate how he uses auto suggestion to achieve all the success, all the books that he's written, all the things that he's done. He's the perfect person to talk about this because auto suggestion seems to be at the core of how we achieve success on purpose. So let's get into this. Let's get into
Oh,
it.
all right, all right. Well, Jason Murray, good morning, sir. How are you? Let me share with the world a little bit about you and then you will have you share. But Jason Murray is an experienced financial professional with a proven track record for success by consistently delivering results throughout an extensive career in sales and marketing, healthcare, financial services, and leadership development. Jason has documented a phenomenal career that has spanned decades in various industries, consisting of, and this is for you, Galen, consumer goods, pharmaceutical, publishing, banking, healthcare. We could go on, but the point is this. If you are looking to take your business and your finances to another level with your life, Jason may be, we're not going to say for sure, because he's not for everybody. And I'm speaking that into existence because he has a portfolio of clients and you might fit, and again, you might not. Good morning, Jason Murray. How are you this beautiful morning?
Good morning, Ann. Good morning, Galen. Thank you so much for inviting me to be a guest today. I am just doing fantastic
I
and
could
just
tell.
ready to share.
Well, you're looking sharp this morning, so let's start with that. We're talking about this principle of autosuggestion. So before we get into the principle, how about you go back, take us back to the early beginnings for you when you began to realize that your words had power and there was such a thing as repetition, affirmations, autosuggestion, self-suggestion. Can you take us back in your childhood or maybe your early adulthood and help us understand when you began to realize that that exists?
Well, I would say I began to realize that that exists when I was a teenager. And when I was a teenager, I became part of an organization, a rites of passage program called the Order of the Feather Fraternity. And when I pledged to this fraternity, it was a 6-month pledging experience. And the tenets were focused on leadership, brotherly love. And early on, I became a leader. I was the vice president of my line. My brother was the president of our line. And through being strong and being that developing leader, I had to focus on being strong, number one, but showing examples to not only to myself, but to my line brothers. And that experience just really focused on helping me dig down deep of my true abilities. And we had to remember poems, we had to remember different things that were being affected in our community. And as a result of that, I had to really focus on how can I be the best that I can be. And through the principle of auto suggestion and just taking it back, I was able to understand and I had a goal to become one of the brothers, right? And through that mental toughness and that perseverance, it enabled me to succeed. So that I guess was a start of my auto suggestion experience.
All right, so bring us up before we take this commercial break to discuss the 13 principles. So then bring us up to where you were first introduced to this book, Think and Grow Rich, and these principles.
Yeah, I was actually a college student. I was a college student at Marist College back in the late 70s, early 80s. At the time, I was introduced to business and network marketing. So I was reading all these motivational books. And of course, Think and Grow Rich was a book that our leadership definitely encouraged us to read. So that was my first experience reading Think and Grow Rich. And it actually helped me out to graduate from college on time while starting a family. All right. So when I graduated from college, I was married and I had 2 sons, and I had to go to work and simultaneously finish college at the same time. And the goal that I had was to better take care of my family. And I could do one or the other, or I can do both. I decided to do both, work full time and go to school full time. And I knew that getting that bachelor's degree was going to increase my income on the long term.
Well, before we move forward, we first of all want to thank all of our listeners on YouTube. And if you have not subscribed to our YouTube channel, please do so. But we want to give a shout out to Jennifer, Colette, Shannon, Wyman, Doretha, all of you that's joining us. Please put your questions in the chat because again, finances, money, this is now, I don't know if you have a name that your friends call you, but I started to call you the money man, but I don't know if that would be a pro. So do you have something that maybe from childhood, a nickname or something brand name that you've acquired through the years that we'd like to have our friends in the chat start chatting that?
That's I could give you the so-so name, or I could give you the real name, but the J-Man, J-Man.
Okay, all right. You heard it here, the J-Man. We're gonna in the chat. Can you just chat that, the J-Man? All right. So before we continue with the J-Man, we're gonna have the G-Man. So come on and share with us these 13 principles. And if you just joined us, we are talking and sharing with Jason Murray. And Jason, he entered the financial services planning industry with Merrill Lynch, where he received his licenses to conduct business in the wealth management space. Prior to his current role, he developed his craft as an experienced advisor for many years. With Transamerica Financial Advisors, now Jason serves as managing partner, financial advisor with financial advisory practice with Right Time Financial, LLC. Murray holds the Series 7, Series 66, and Life, Health, Property, and Casualty licenses. So again, please comment, like, and share this podcast. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube. Jason's going to share his information as we continue so you can connect with him for your financial services needs. So with that, G-Man.
Yes. So great conversation already. Great conversation already. If this is your first time being exposed to the book Think and Grow Rich, this is what I like to call the formula for how to have success on purpose. Any of us can be successful accidentally if we happen to pick the right lottery card, if we happen to invest in the right stock market without doing any education. We can be successful accidentally, but how do you be successful on purpose? That's the process that Napoleon Hill has compiled by talking to 500 of the most influential men of his era. So as you take a listen to these 13 principles, I really want to challenge you to think about how are these principles at work in your life? How are they activated in order for you to have success on purpose?
Number 1 is desire. Napoleon Hill said that everything starts with a burning desire, a compelling reason for doing what it is we do. Step 2 is faith, having belief in our ability to attain that which we desire. Step 3 is what we call autosuggestion. Autosuggestion simply means being very intentional about the things that we are pouring into our thoughts, into our brains, and into our consciousness. Our brains, our minds will receive everything automatically, but we have to work extra hard to make sure that the positive things are what we are feeding ourselves, because those positive thoughts are going to turn into positive actions. Step number 4 is specialized knowledge. No one person knows everything, even about whatever their particular area of expertise might be. And the value of the Mastermind principle is using the specialized knowledge of other people. Step number 5 is imagination, the workshop of the mind. Everything starts with our imagination and our thoughts, the burning desire to transform those thoughts into our reality. In order to do that, we have to take a look at step 6, which is organized planning. That is how we crystallize our desire into action, organizing ourselves. Having the thought and not acting on the thought isn't going to get us anywhere. We have the thought, we go through the organized planning to transform that thought into action. Step number 7 is decision. What Napoleon Hill said is the mastery of procrastination. Napoleon Hill said that the antidote to procrastination is simply to make a decision and then move on that decision. Step 8 is persistence. We have to have a sustained effort which is induced by our faith in order to achieve our goals. One of Napoleon Hill's books I love, even the title, 3 Feet from Gold. Those people who became rich during the gold rush in the Wild Wild West days didn't do that because they were necessarily smarter or had better information than anyone else. It's because they stayed just a little bit longer. Sometimes people left when they were just literally 3 feet from gold. So hanging in there, being persistent, is step number 8. Step number 9, the power of the mastermind, the driving force. None of us can accomplish anything on our own. Everybody, I don't care who you are, from the most prominent person to the person who might be considered the lowest on the totem pole, everybody has someone who helped them get to where they are. And the power of the mastermind is being able to use those influences around us, use the thoughts, use the knowledge, use the exploration of other people to help us in achieving our goal. Step number 10, the mystery of sex transmutation. This title can be a little confusing, but essentially what the mystery of sex transmutation means is that we oftentimes in our society think of sex as being purely physical. It is absolutely physical, but what Napoleon Hill teaches us is that sex also has an emotional element, and that sex is the strongest of our desires. That if we can take our sexual energy, transform that into positive, creative influences, it can propel us to new heights. And so we spend quite a bit of time talking about the mystery of step 10, which is sex transmutation. Step number 11 is the subconscious mind, which Napoleon Hill tells us is the connecting leap between our human mind and the infinite intelligence, the source of all thought, the source of all creativity. Conscious mind, we spent some time talking about how we use that through the influence of autosuggestion and what we're feeding into our mind. Step number 12, which is the brain, the broadcasting and receiving station of thought. Final step number 13, the sixth sense, the door to the temple of wisdom. This is the final step through which infinite intelligence may and will communicate voluntarily without any effort from or demands by the individual. The principle is the apex of the philosophy. It can be assimilated, understood, and applied only by first mastering the other 12 principles.
All right. Well, there you have it, all 13 principles. And I hope you were following along and thinking about how all of those knit together to create this success philosophy. And again, I just want to add my appreciation to everyone who's watching us online, on YouTube, on Facebook. Inez Jordan is here in the studio with us. So I just can't wait to get deeper into this conversation with Jason Murray. So, Ann, back to you.
All right, let's go back to Jason. So Jason, I know we met a little bit ago, I'm gonna say, right? And what I'd like to have you share, I was in Chicago this weekend, and we're gonna come to this experience that we've had with this book and this particular principle. And what I'm learning is that I don't know what I don't know. I don't know what I don't know. But what I do know is that the more I learn, the more I learn about what I don't know. But when I decide that I want to know more and I begin to study that, I am finding this principle of autosuggestion has just began to take on a life of its own in every single area of my life, especially my finances. And in the area of my personal finances, I realized, well, I'm realizing, if you will, that I have not because I ask not. And when I ask, that other book says I ask amiss, right? So this book shares a formula that I was introduced to in 1979. And that formula, I found that as I used the formula for my finances and did exactly what Napoleon Hill said that I should do, I then began to uncover areas of study that I needed to focus on, right, in my finances. Since you are the financial planner, we're gonna elevate you today to heights unknown, okay? But I want to set this up because I do believe that if you don't know how much money you want, forget about how much you need. We're not going to talk about that. If you don't know, first of all, how much money you want, forget about how you're going to do it. Forget about learning all of those things that we tend to want to learn before we get started. And if you don't know why you need the money, then when you're exposed to information that should help you, it does not connect. So what I'd like to have you share with our listeners, at what point as a financial planner in this principle, we're in this principle of autosuggestion and the affirmation that you are now using, at what point did this realization connect for you with your clients and helping them to understand? First of all, everybody's not for you, Jason, as a client, but those people who are seeking you, you're seeking them and vice versa. And those individuals who know how much money they need, when you start talking to them, it clicks, right? Can you share with us if you have an affirmation or something you use to just keep your mind so focused? Because I started this conversation off by talking about Napoleon Hill and the affirmation that he shares with us. And for those of you that's listening live or either in the future, I would challenge you, while Jason is sharing, I would challenge you to go to the auto-suggestion principle in the book. And Napoleon Hill gives us some instructions in that book. He calls them the summary of instructions. And we'll talk about those a little later. I'll read them into the recording. But Jason, can you just share with us an incident, a story, or an example of when did that connect for you about how to use this particular principle of autosuggestion and the repetition in your mind? So as you're talking to your clients and it's not connecting, you're not deterred or deflected, if you will, but you are encouraged to continue to go on. Because I think that is so very important for all of our listeners to know that there are some words you can use, whether you call it an affirmation, self-suggestion, prayer, whatever you call it, but something that you can create and use to just help you keep going forward.
Absolutely, Anne, and thanks for asking me that. Now, I want to tell you a brief story and give you an example. You mentioned that I started off my career in the financial service business with Merrill Lynch. So I'm going to take you back to 2008. So in 2008, when the global financial crisis hit, I was transitioned out of Merrill Lynch. My youngest daughter, was about to go to college, and myself, along with a number of other people, lost our jobs, but yet we still had to maintain our mortgages. So I was able to understand the ability to save my house, properly plan, pivot to a new business temporarily, and then still manage my finances. I was able to transition to a new firm. And in addition, I was able to plan, well, how was I going to send my daughter to college simultaneously? So you had a lot of moving parts. So the ability to have the auto suggestion principle was realized knowing that I had certain expenses, my salary went down, and yet my expenses were about to go up. Therefore, just understanding that you have to budget properly, you have to also put an emergency fund in place when emergencies take place, because I didn't know that the global financial crisis was going to hit. No one knew that. But when it happened, people who were unprepared lost their homes. I was able to keep my home, and then my daughter was able to go to college, and I was able to manage my finances. So, in terms of an affirmation, the best affirmation that I believe I utilized there was, I have abundance. I know that times may be challenging right now. However, I will get through this and find a way. Where there's a will, there's a way, regardless of the circumstances. You're on mute, Ann.
Of course, I'm talking on mute. And I was saying, thank you so very much for that. And I wrote some of the points you made because I think that when you said, now here we go to autosuggestion, right? Because whatever we say, the mind does not know the difference between what's true or false. It only knows what we tell it over and over again. And so when you talked about, being let go, I believe that you were elevated. And I believe that every time we share that thought, we affirm that we were elevated. Every time we say, I was let go, I was fired. And this is for all of us, all of us. We all have stories. Every time I say that I was fired, I was whatever, that's a negative, I become more of that.
Mhm.
When I affirmed that I was elevated to be my true, and I see Galen's head going up and down in affirmation. Again, this principle is so powerful. Oh my, it is so powerful in helping us to really understand that the words we use. There's one of my favorite books is entitled Conscious Language, the Logos of Now, which really began to help me better understand this. And I was sharing with Galen before the podcast started. I am now starting to read whatever Napoleon Hill was reading, and I'm reading a book by Emil Coe that talks about his affirmation every day and every way I get better and better. And I wrote it for years, but it wasn't until I began to go deeper in his teachings that I had a better understanding of what Napoleon Hill shares in imagination and the will, the conscious and the unconscious. So you were elevated, Jason. You were elevated.
I
You were
concur.
elevated.
I concur.
Yes, to your other self. So I want to go to Galen, and then I want to come back and talk about this power of our Black NSA $1 million mastermind impact, right? So Galen, let me go to you with any questions.
Yeah, yeah. So Jason, I want to get really, really tactical and very practical here because I understand what the book says. The book says that the brain doesn't know the difference between real and imagined, and that the conscious brain can do all kinds of analysis and calculations and remember all kinds of facts, but it doesn't control behavior. The subconscious brain is what controls behavior, and that the way you get to the subconscious brain is through autosuggestion. So how in the world do you do as Napoleon Hill suggests and play a pleasant trick on your brain to tell yourself that something that you want is real when you can look tangibly and see that you don't have a job, but you're telling yourself, I am wealthy, I've been elevated. How do you do that? What's the work look like to stay in this space of autosuggestion and affirmation when you're in the midst of needing to find food for your little girl or make sure that the mortgage is paid? How do you do that? What's the tangible process for doing that?
Well, you have to have a burning desire, and you have to have a goal, and you have to have that goal present in your mind, and you have to know specifically what that goal is going to represent and what the attainment of that goal, how you're going to feel when you attain that goal. And when you do that, and when you put your mindset of success versus failure, and you put your mindset towards belief opposed to doubt, you tell your mind that it's achievable. And if you practice and you realize you've got to stay focused, and you realize that at before you go to bed at night, when you wake up in the morning, that burning desire is on the top of your mind. So subconsciously, what we think about, the actions become are realized and come to fruition. So it's about a burning desire, an actual goal, specifics, and then repetition, speaking it out loud, memorizing what it is that you're going to have to achieve.
Yeah.
That is where the mental toughness comes in to realize any goal that we want to accomplish.
I like that. I love your use of the phrase mental toughness. And usually when I think of mental toughness, I think of elite athletes. I think of military soldiers and warriors, this idea of mental toughness. And another word that you use, which I don't know that it gets as much highlight as it should. You use the word practice, and it does require practice. Because I think Napoleon Hill even says, don't get discouraged when the first couple of times you do this, it doesn't work out quite the way you had hoped. You've got to practice this. And as you practice, you get better and you get stronger and you start developing some of that mental toughness.
Absolutely, absolutely. And then as I'm advising clients, um, sacrifice is very difficult for a lot of clients. Most people live for today. And as we know, we live in a capitalist society, which is driven by consumerism. So you could either be a consumer, you can be a capitalist, or you could be an investor. And your actions determine how your finances are going to be. Now, unfortunately, financial literacy has not necessarily been taught in the school systems and been mandatory for all states. So, some of the problems that some of our clients are faced with is not the fault of their own. It is the consumer driven mindset that most people have, opposed to focus on appreciable assets. So, my role as an advisor is to get people really understanding where their mindset needs to be towards saving and investing, living for tomorrow and not just for today. And therefore, you'll plan for the future, but live a lifestyle, enjoy your lifestyle today, but know that when you stop working to maintain that lifestyle, there's certain things that you're going to have to do for the future.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. Boy, I love the way the thought process and the methodology and the methodical approach that you're taking to this, because you're absolutely right. And I put it in the chat. I'd love for Wyman Winbush and any other military folks to weigh in on the importance of mental toughness in the military, because if I can think of any place where everything in you would probably say run the other way. Everything in you should probably tell you they're shooting over here, you need to run over there. But yet you've got to talk yourself into why this thing that you're doing is important and more important than any fears that you might have. Which, back to your point, Jason, talks about your burning desire.
Absolutely.
Well,
Absolutely.
I was never in the military, but I think that those of us who are not in the military, I believe that we are also in a war. And it's a war of complacency, indifference, no goals, no desires, no inspiration, no aspiration. And again, I go back to this autosuggestion principle. And as we continue to surround ourselves with people like that, we become like that. But the other side is true too. I also believe that we are going back to Galen's point about mental toughness that you need when you're in the war. But I think you also need that same mental toughness, which is why I think some individuals, when they come out of the armed services, can come into business and do extremely well. Those who are athletes that do very well in terms of training their mind and their body to overcome certain challenges in life, self-talk again, they come into business and they do very well. Let's come back to you, Jason. And if you can share with us, and I think you've been a part of for those of you that's listening, we also are part of the National Speakers Association. And inside of that organization, we have a subgroup called the Black NSA. which are for Black speakers and others, but we have a Black NSA $1 Million Mastermind. And Jason, I think all of us may have met there. I'm not sure. I think that's where we met.
Yes,
Can you share with us, because I think you just signed up again.
that's correct. Yes.
Exactly. This principle shares, and I mentioned this a little bit ago, about the affirmation from Napoleon Hill, because I want to have you share with us, if you don't mind, of course. I would like to have you share with us your affirmation. But before you do, I just want to read into all of our hearings what Napoleon Hill shares, because I think it's so very interesting that we can share with the audience what they should do. But what if we give them examples of how to do it? They have to do their own why. They have to find their own who. Okay, they have to determine their own when and their own where. But I would like to start this off, and Galen and myself, Peter, many of you who are inside the YouTube chat, make sure you put in there any questions you have for Jason, but any of us. But I want to go, Jason, to this 6 steps. I call them my 6-point business plan, because I've built 5 businesses from this summary of instructions. But I'd like to get your thoughts on this affirmation, if you will, these instructions that Napoleon Hill gives us, because I think that during the mastermind, you, like all of us, utilize this formula. Well, at least I suggest you use it. So, so let me just read it into our the hearing of our listeners, so that when we come back to your story and how you're using it and what impact, if any, it is having, right? Because again, I really want to encourage all of our listeners. You know, we can come on the podcast and we can talk about a lot of different things, but I think it's equally as important if we give you an examples of how do you use this book? How do you live in this book? Once you get off the podcast, you know, what do you do next? It's great to talk to Ann and Galen and Peter and Jason about their stories, but what about your story? So what Napoleon Hill says is this, and if you have your book, please follow along with us. He gives us what he calls summary of instructions, right? And he says that, you know, if you are on this podcast, now that's my interpretation. He basically says, if you are reading this book, but I say, if you're on this podcast, it is an indication that you earnestly seek knowledge. It is also an indication that you are a student of this subject. If you are a student, there is a chance that you may learn much that you did not know, but you will learn only by assuming an attitude of humility. If you choose to follow some of these instructions, but neglect or refuse to follow others, you will fail. Let me say that again. If you choose to follow some of the instructions, but you choose not to follow all of the instructions, you will fail. How do I know? I did it. Okay. So to get satisfactory results, you must follow all the instructions in a spirit of faith. The instructions given in connection with the 6 steps in the 2nd chapter will now be summarized and blended with the principles covered by this chapter as follows. And these are the instructions. He says, go into a quiet spot, preferably in bed at night, where you will not be disturbed or interrupted. Close your eyes and repeat aloud so you may hear your own words, the written statement of the amount of money you intend to accumulate, the time for its accumulation, and a description of the service or merchandise you intend to give in return for the money. As you carry out these instructions, see yourself already in possession of the money. For example, suppose you intend to accumulate $50,000 by the 1st of January, 5 years hence, which is in the future, that you intend to give personal services in return for the money in capacity of a salesman. Your written statement of your purpose should be similar to the following. By the 1st day of January, and you put in the date, I will have in my possession $50,000, which will come to me in various amounts from time to time during the interim. In return for this money, I would give the most efficient service, which I am capable, rendering the fullest possible quantity and the best possible quality of service in the capacity. And then you put in that line whatever it is you're going to do. I believe that I will have this money in my possession. My faith is so strong that I can see this money before my eyes. I can now touch it with my hands. I am awaiting transfer of it at the time and in the proportion that I deliver the service I intend to render in return for it. Now, he asked for us to repeat this night and morning. Place a written copy where you can see it. Now I'm gonna come back to you, Jason. When you participated with us the first time in the mastermind, right? How did this impact you, or did it? And if so, could you share an example?
Yes, it definitely impacted me, and I'll tell you why. Because at the time that I participated the last time, I had written 2 books. Faith Plus Purpose Equal Legacy was my first book. Then my second book, Our Stories, Our Voices, Black Men Speak Their Truth. And I was about to write and finish my third book, The 7 Mindsets to Successfully Transition from Employee to Entrepreneur. But I didn't have the complete funding for the book. And as I was looking to complete the book, I had some challenges. And I also needed to make sure that I maintain my business as a financial advisor at the same time. So, as I participated with the mastermind, I had to put a goal to maintain and keep my financial business up and running, but yet also generate activities to complete my third book. And as a result of utilizing this principle of auto suggestion, I was able to get a sponsor to help me complete my third book. I was able to grow my financial service business by adding on additional clients. And I actually got one of the largest clients that I ever obtained. It was a 401k plan, a $20 million 401k plan. And I had a current client at the time, and timing presented itself where that 401k plan administrator, they weren't doing what they needed to do. And I was able to leverage my existing relationship and acquire a $20 million 401k plan as a result of utilizing the auto suggestion principle. So
Hold it 1 second. Hold it. I gotta take a pause, Galen. You don't mind, do you? Could you just repeat that, please? Because I really want people to understand that you must do the work. And depending upon whatever it is you do for a living, that is part of the work. But the other part of the work is having a discipline, a ritual, an affirmation, something that you are using to program your mindset. So what was different? What else did you do? In other words, did you go out and grow another ear? Did you create another eye? In other words, I'm making this funny, but my point is the affirmation, you used it.
absolutely.
And you're sharing with us the results of using it. You didn't go out and get another degree.
Nope.
You didn't run a marathon.
Nope.
I just, I'm making this simple, but I didn't interrupt you from sharing, but I just want to make sure everybody heard $20 million. And one of the things that you did differently was to recite the affirmation. How many
That's
times?
right.
Twice a day.
Twice a day in the morning upon waking up, and the last thing I did at night before going to sleep, because that's when your subconscious mind, when you're dreaming, when you're sleeping. So if you do it at the night before you retire, and then first thing, opposed to reading your email. So we know that email and social media is a habit that most people have. So opposed to doing that the first thing in the morning, you want to read your affirmation first thing in the morning and then last thing at night. And your subconscious mind hears what it is that you wanted to hear, and thus the actions then perpetuate itself in your daily living.
Now, I know Galen wants to jump in, but one more question.
Sure.
I just want to carry this all the way through because I think it's critical. It's critical. And I say for myself, I built 5 businesses doing this. So once you recite the affirmation, did you have any thoughts or ideas or actions you could take?
Absolutely. And the actions that I could take were to, and I gave you that example, is to utilize your inner network, your inner book of business. A lot of times we go and we prospect. As a financial advisor, you definitely want to prospect, but you also don't want to lose sight of your inside network or your current book of business. If you continue servicing your current book of business, you're going to find you're going to get additional referrals. And if you do a good job with your clients, those referrals will come to you in the case of that $20 million deal. Current client talked to me and shared that their current administrator, they weren't doing what they needed to continue to be doing to really help the account move forward. Timing was right, but more so the ability for me to tell my mind what I needed to get done, it came to fruition.
Mm.
Okay, Galen.
Well, I'm just building off of what you were saying there, Jason, about taking care of your clients and doing the right thing. You got a client referral or client testimony there in YouTube from Jennifer Knoll, saying how much you have helped her as her advisor, and how you're putting these principles to work. One of the things too I wanted to highlight about what I heard you say is that you were purposeful about trying to make this thing a reality. We have this thought that if we just watch enough Instagram, if we just watch enough videos on Instagram, mystically, magically, these things are going to come into place. But you were purposeful about the things that you were doing, the things that you were putting into your mind. We know as business executives and advertisers, we know the power of cutting through the conscious mind. That's why your TV ads, your TV commercials are always a little louder than the show that you're watching, because advertisers are trying to cut through your conscious mind to get to your subconscious mind. In addition to auto-suggestion, what are some things that you do, Jason, to influence your subconscious mind purposefully to do the things that you want it to do, rather than being influenced by what larger corporations might be trying to get you to do?
Well, I take some quiet time a lot, meditation. And when I take the time to be just with me and understand my thoughts and understand what I want to accomplish, when I'm doing my meditations, then it leads me to say, all right, if I'm posting on social media what I came in terms of my mind as what I thought about during my meditation, I go out and I post that. And I think about, well, what's my end result? And as a end result comes to fruition, then it builds more confidence for me. Because
Mm,
as we either achieve success or we overcome adversity, our confidence builds. But if we fail and we learn from our mistakes, our confidence always builds as well. So it doesn't matter if we put something out there, if we achieve it, we benefit. If we fail, we benefit. But it's also a matter of just thinking about what it is you want to accomplish. If you're not thinking about it, then you're moving in just kind of like a wayward direction. You're
mm,
going this way, you're going that way. But if you think in advance, then you have some guidance.
mm.
Having the
Love it.
guidance makes so much of a difference. As I instruct my clients, as I've raised my children, I've given them guidance, and they have seen through my examples that it wasn't always easy. But what they do know is that dad will always persevere. Dad has a sense of resilience. Dad makes sure that he's going to take care of his family regardless of what circumstances he's faced with. And for me, that gives my children the ability to now take care of my grandchildren and know that they're going to experience things too. Okay? No one gets away from it. But when you're faced with adversity, utilizing certain principles of resilience, perseverance, that's going to get you through.
Fantastic, fantastic. Well, and I really I love to hear you talk about this annual meeting because you really bring this to life. This was probably just an idea that you had many years ago, and it has evolved into an event that many people, myself included, look forward to every year to get focused on what it is that we're trying to create and get very clear on our burning desires. So, would you talk a little bit about that annual meeting?
Yes, right after I talk about Jason, phenomenal. Oh my gosh, you got me at the word guidance. Every day I write the Augmandino prayer where he prays for guidance in scroll 10.
Mhm.
And when you use that word guidance, that is the whole, that's everything. Because if you pray for guidance, all the gold and the rubies and all that stuff does not matter if you're foolish with it. And that prayer of guidance, okay, now, Galen, I can follow the instructions. So, okay. Okay. Listen, I'm excited. We're gonna have to have you back, Jason. And I wanted to talk about the office business. I didn't get a chance to do that today. So I would like for you to come back and let's talk about the family office. And
I'd,
you know
I'd,
exactly
I'd
what I'm
love
talking
to. I'd love to.
about. That is a podcast all by itself. And as a part of our annual meeting, oh, yeah, let's talk about that. Oh. See, this is what happens with autosuggestion and the principle. One thought begets another, that begets another, that begets another. So this annual meeting that was created came out of a group of friends. My first mastermind group was 10 of us. And one thought begat another thought that begat another thought. And so we were meeting every week. And then at the end of the month, we would recap. But then we realized at the end of the year, we needed to recap all the months in every area of our lives, what goals we had. And as we continued to do that, we got to an annual meeting where we had about 90 people in my home, and we realized we needed to take it to a hotel. So now we host our annual meeting for your life. This is not a conference. I tell everybody, it's not a conference. It is not a conference. There's no keynote speaker. There's no conference bags. There's none of those things. You are the corporation. You are the keynote speaker at your table. This event for next year, January 3rd and 4th, 2025, is going to be held in Boca Raton. And right now you can go to the internationalmasterminders.com and you can register. This is for your entire family. As you can see in the front, we have children. We probably have about 20 families represented on this screen. For those of you that's listening on the podcast, you can't see it. There's over 100 people here on the screen. We've had over 1,000 people to have come over the years, but it is about how do you take your affirmation and apply it not just to the money area of your life, but to all 10 areas. What are those 10 areas? They are your mindset. Some people call it spiritual, whatever it works for you. It is that part of your life. What are your goals? What are your goals for your family? We've heard our guest, Jason, talk about his family motivated him to do more and have more, to be more for his family. What about the financial area of your life? And many people say, well, I don't want any money. I just want to be a philanthropist. Okay. Perfect. make some money and give it away, right? So the financial area of your life, and that's where we're going to come back, Jason, and talk about the family office, right?
Okay. I look forward to that. I look forward to that.
Yes. And then there's the educational area of your life, the books you read, your health area, that survey that requires us to take an assessment, an inventory every year of all of the things that we should have done for our health, those checkups, those check-ins, or whatever it is. And then there's the personal development area. When we heard you talk, Jason, about where you were, and even when you started repeating the affirmation, you had to become internally a different person mentally, right? Then we talk about your business or your profession. That's the fifth area. But what about the recreation, the creativity, the civic, all of these other areas of your life? We encourage you for the annual meeting for your life to think of yourself like a publicly traded corporation. And this is Jason's business, helping to plan financially. But that's the stock market. That's different vehicles and instruments that are used to take your finances to another level in order to take your life to another level. But what if you are the corporation and Jason's going to determine, his advisory is going to determine, will he advise his clients to invest in you based upon your 10 different departments, each one of them, you're setting earnings projections on what you're going to do the upcoming year. And at the end of the year, Jason and his firm is going to analyze your earnings to see if you hit the mark based upon what you said, right, Jason? That's how it goes, right?
Absolutely.
Now,
spot on.
Exactly, your earnings projections are your goals. And I love telling the story about Galen, when he said this year, he had checked all the boxes. He was doing very well, richer, more handsome, fit, GQ and all of that. And then he realized he got an F. He got an F in his spiritual area because he couldn't check the box. He had to put an X. What I love about you, Galen, is you were honest with yourself to say X, X, X. And because he said that, he then created a plan. He put the plan into action. He created another mastermind group of friends who now are walking through his 90-day program of walking through the Bible. Now, I share that story because every single area of your life is a department. And all we do at the annual meeting, and if you have not registered, I don't care where you are in the world, the investment will go up. So don't call me and text me saying, hey, I missed the deadline. No. We want to elevate the event. We're looking for another location, but you can still register now. Internationalmasterminders.com. You can register. If you are interested in taking your life and your business to another level of accountability, that's what we do at this annual meeting. So Galen, that's my story and I'm sticking to it. And we are planning every single week. Yes, we are. We meet every Tuesday to make this event the best ever. But remember, you, whoever you are listening to me, you are the corporation. You are the keynote speaker sitting at a table with 2 or 3 people where you get to share every single goal you set in writing. And if you didn't set one, we have a survey for you. You can just check the boxes. Mm-hmm. But we get giving you an opportunity to look at your life, every area of your life, and assess where you are. That is why I created this, because again, for myself, I searched the world over for a way and a group of people to hold me accountable. I think Napoleon Hill tells us in the book, if you have a problem, find some other people with the same problem, help them solve their problem, you help solve your own problem. And so my problem was accountability. And I can say, I don't like doing this. So people don't come to me and say, I don't like doing it. But what I love are the benefits that are derived from having goals in every single area of my life, and my children and family members and friends are doing the same thing. So that's it, Galen, for the annual meeting. And I know the time is well invested. I'm trying to wrap up. I know, but I'm so excited. It might be that 5th cup of coffee with extra. So Galen and Jason, let's go around and wrap up and share with our listeners who you are, how can people connect with you, and if there's something that you would like for them to do or connect with you in some kind of way. So Galen, if you want to go, and then we'll go to our guests, and then I'll wrap up.
Yeah, so another great conversation. I think the key to having a great show is to have a great guest, and that's definitely been the case here. Jason, I love your methodical approach to achieving success on purpose and all the things that you've shared. My name is Galen Bingham. I am the leadership strategist. There are just so many ways that you can get a hold of me. The most fun way is to check out the podcast Whiskey, Jazz, and Leadership. We talk to leaders literally all over the world about the whiskey they drink, the music they listen to, and what they think it really takes to be an effective leader. One of the things that I would encourage everyone to check out is I am partnering with our other co-host who's not here today because he is welcoming his grandchild, his grandson into the world. Kyron is here, but I am partnering with him to do a hot seat coaching program. So if you are in the market for achieving success on purpose, and you want to see how a group cohort, group coaching process might be able to help you, this is the process for you. And again, Peter and I are doing this together. This is kind of how we operate when we work with each other. I would encourage everyone to go to shiftyourmindset.com to get more information about how you can be involved in this upcoming cohort that starts on April the 15th. So that's my story. Jason, thank you so much for sharing your story with us today.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Yes, Jason, how can people reach you? And if there's an event, website, or something you want to share?
Yeah, so people can reach me. I have two websites. The first one is my firm's website, and that's Right Time Financial, Right Time Financial. And then also, if someone wants to get a copy of my third book, that is jasonsmurray.com. And I am focused on succession planning. So I'm looking to mentor and train individuals who may be in the business already or want to join the business of financial services to be mentored by myself and my business partners. And then in terms of my third book, the 7 mindsets for successfully transitioning from employee to entrepreneur, that book can be purchased, an autographed copy can be purchased there at jasonsmurray.com.
Oh, thank you. I just want to mention what Galen Wyman shared in the chat. He said the annual meeting. The annual meeting is an annual meeting of annual cadence, if you will. And so thank you so very much for that. Really appreciated, Wyman, and all that you help us to do. Now, Jason, seriously, I know I went over a little bit, but I am so inspired and excited. I remember you coming the first time. You're not the same person. I want to publicly say that. We are so very proud of your growth. We really, really are. And Wyman, if you could help me with this, I do want to promote the Black NSA $1 Million Mastermind. So before we wrap up, and I tell people how they can reach me, Jason, can you share your thoughts about why did you re-up and register again? And for those of you that's listening, we're going to put the link in the chat. So Wyman, if you can help me with that, put that in the chat on the YouTube for people to register still. And I know they're going to get after me, but I think it's so powerful to remember that only iron can sharpen iron. And I think that that's what we find in the Black NSA $1 Million Mastermind. What do you think? Why did you re-up, Jason?
I came back because I, number one, achieved success the first time. And then also, as I recently transitioned from one firm to the next, I hadn't been um, doing a lot of public speaking. And I wanted to continue and be able to sharpen my public speaking skills. And additionally, I have focused my energies towards developing a legacy giving program where I want to go to churches in the New York, New Jersey area and educate the congregation members, educate the leaders of the church on legacy giving, and then be able to provide them with insurance reviews. So, increasing my public speaking skills and developing a legacy giving program is getting me focused on what I need to do in terms of my service and impacting the lives of others through the education that I have and through the examples that I've been able to share through my ability to be resilient, my ability to persevere through so many different ways in my life. And the mastermind has been very successful. As you mentioned, I've grown since the first time, and it's a direct reflection of the mentorship within the organization. No question about it. Iron sharpens iron.
Oh. Okay, everybody, you can see I'm having a moment. Yes, I'm having a moment. Yes. Wow. My name is Ann McNeil, and I am the master wealth builder. And I help women in the construction business elevate to the next level. And if you're interested in connecting with me, I'm changing my name to 59925. Yes, we are talking about Think and Grow Rich, 6 Steps to Riches. And if you'd like to get a copy of what we just shared about the 6 steps, you can just take your phone out, which I would encourage you to do right now, everybody. Take out your phone. Yes, take your phone out and text this number 59925, 59925. And in the chat, just put the word and I will send you back what I call my 6-point business plan. 59925. That's the 6 steps that we just talked about. You did not know this, and I'll talk to you about this offline, Jason, but what you just shared when I asked you to talk about the Black NSA $1 Million Mastermind, in my personal finances, I'm looking for somebody to help me review my insurances. So I will be calling you offline, and just imagine that would have never happened if we didn't go there, that extra step. And I say that I want to share with everybody, every dot connects to the next dot, but only if you're willing to go the next step. And sometimes it's a little uncomfortable. And I would encourage and inspire you to hang in there. But Jason said it best. You must have a desire, something you're working toward first. Because if you don't have that, the money doesn't matter. Galen and I talked about a phenomenal vacation he just experienced. And we were sharing that his mom is his why. The money is only a tool. Yes, we talk about think and grow richer, but it's in every area of your life. That's why we focus on the 10 areas. What good is the money if you're sick?
That's right.
What good is the money if you're divorced again and again? What good is the money if you're not happy with yourself? Because another million or another billion, what Gail and I were laughing before the podcast. I said, Gail, think about all those billionaires that are divorced. So I just want to encourage all of you, as we wrap this up, continue to think and grow richer, but in every single area of your life. And one of the ways to do that is with this principle espoused by Napoleon Hill called autosuggestion. It's your self-talk. And I do believe the way I started this podcast talking about, just imagine if you can have a lot of these wonderful things, but you don't start with the money, you start with your mindset. What are the words you're saying to yourself from the time you get up until the time you go to bed all day long? So this is a phenomenal principle. All of you are awesome. Jason, of course, I'm going to connect with you offline because I do desire to have someone. Yes, I have a lot of financial planners already, but that's not the point. I'm looking for somebody to help review my insurances. And you just said that word. So that means this is just for us, right? So everybody else have a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful event the rest of the day. And we're going to encourage all of you to remember to continue to think and grow richer. Jason, you can stay on. We're going to see everybody else later.